It's time for some music.
Songs of protest and social justice.
He's a fantastic composer, musician, a wonderful story singer, and a committed activist.
Strong voice, through song, for various grassroots movements for social justice around the world.
Some are singing, some posting banners, while others are laying low for now.
This is David Rovics.
Das ist doch mal ein Intro und jetzt sitzt er in der Tat neben mir. Eben haben wir ja schon den Song 1492 von ihm gehört und wie ich eben schon sagte, er tourt auf mehreren Kontinenten und das schon über Jahre und ich bin sehr, sehr froh, dass er hier ist. Singer-Songwriter David Rovics, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
I just mentioned to the audience that you're on tour regularly on 4 continents, playing for audiences large and small, but maybe in the beginning, could you describe your own style for the viewers who may not be familiar with your music?
I mean, I just say folk punk to just confuse people.
Okay, to confuse them.
Yeah, just to have something, you know. Yeah.
Very political music, of course, but what are your influences when you look back, maybe, when you started?
Oh, all kinds of people that nobody's ever heard of, but others that people have heard of, for sure, like Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah, but all kinds of stuff. I tour a lot with a punk rocker from England named Attila the Stockbroker.
Okay.
There's a band called Barnstormer. They play here a lot in Germany, and he's certainly been a big influence. And a guy named Jim Page in Seattle, not Jimmy, but Jim Page.
Jim
Christy
Page, yeah.
Moore in Ireland. Yeah, it's Buffy St. Marie.
Well, that's a lot of names,
Yeah.
actually. Really. I remember you've been called the peace poet and troubadour of our time, which is a really nice compliment. But was there ever a question of doing another type of music for you?
Yeah, my parents are both classical musicians, so certainly that was the more obvious possibility when I was a kid, but I kind of drifted away from that. Yeah.
When did that happen? When did you drift away from that music, from classical music?
I think as a teenager, mostly because I was tired of being told to practice so much.
Okay.
You know, basically. But
well, nobody likes to practice.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to have something small I could carry around in the woods with me when I was doing psychedelic drugs, basically. And you know, and you couldn't carry a cello with you very easily, so I picked up a tiny little guitar and started. That's kind of how it started, actually. The honest truth. Yeah, and I was exposed to political activism at an early age, but didn't sort of connect the two things with music and activism until later. And I don't necessarily think of myself as doing activism. I'm just writing songs about the world and history, and that, you know, puts you in a certain corner. You know.
Being a singer-songwriter, what's the secret of being a singer-songwriter? Or maybe what's your philosophy of making a living, which is important as well, of making a living as a singer-songwriter in today's world, maybe?
It's really tricky, especially in the U.S., where there's really very little access to any kind of media, you know. And, but I think I mean, I wrote a little book about it, but the basic thing is you got to be really good at writing songs. You got to be a really good performer. And you have to be really good at running a small business. And that's it in a nutshell. And I think that's also true even if you're on a major record label and you're famous and whatever. You still have to get up in the morning and do your schedule of interviews and drive to wherever, and, you know, all that stuff, you know. If you're driving or somebody else is driving, you still got to get in the bus, and, you know, you have to be basically a business person, you know. So, which doesn't work for a lot of artists, you know, because it's totally different from the skill set involved with writing songs and playing
being a
music.
musician.
Yeah, it's a very solitary kind of thing. Actually, being a good musician is a very solitary thing, but then being a good performer is a very social thing, and running a business is another skill set, you know. So, yeah, you pretty much have to be good at all three, I think, for it to work. You know.
Talking about your music, musically, what are the most enjoyable experiences for you? Is it playing at protests? Because you're obviously on the streets constantly, I think. Is that like something that's most enjoyable for you, or playing a concert with your songs?
They're both really fun, but it's definitely like a real thrill. Like 2 days ago in Berlin, playing at the TTIP protest.
Yeah.
I mean, That's pretty fun, playing for an audience that size. But also just if you're playing in a nice theater where there's nice lighting and sound and you got an audience of at least 100 people, that's also just a great it's a great experience. The worst is playing in a, in a bar where everybody's talking and ignoring you.
They're just drinking beer and not really listening to you as an artist. You just mentioned Berlin, because I remember back in, I think it was 2002, you played at the Alexanderplatz in Berlin. That was when President Bush was in Germany. How do you remember that protest back then? Was that a great experience?
Oh, it was just magnificent, because I had played at other big protests with similar size crowds in the U.S., but the difference was that in the folks who organized that event, just like the one on Saturday, had a fantastic sound system, and everybody could actually hear you. And in the U.S., the sound systems are almost never good enough at a big protest for more than the first couple thousand people to actually hear you.
So there's a big difference here in Europe compared to the U.S.
And Germany.
Especially here in this country.
Especially, the Germans in general and the German left as well are well organized, and when they put together an event, it's gonna be good. I mean, every left group in Germany has a sound truck. I mean, it's also true in Denmark. They all have sound trucks. They're all really good quality equipment somehow or other, and it's just a world away from the kind of things they put together, some guitar amp and, whatever that they'll have at a U.S.
Big difference. What I think is really interesting when we talk about your homepage, I just quickly open it up for the viewers, because there it says songs of social significance. Music, I think it's really interesting. Music is no spectator sport. You can become, on your homepage, a co-conspirator. You can organize gigs or translate your songs into different languages. So what can the people do for you, or what can they do for themselves when they subscribe to your channel here on the homepage?
Well, the thing I figured out a long time ago is you can't organize tours by working directly with venues. You need to, if it's going to work, unless you're famous and you can just put up an ad in the paper and people will come. For somebody like me, you need to get local people to organize your gigs, for one thing. So that's and then I also discovered a couple of years ago the idea of getting people to sort of subscribe to you or join your community-supported art project. In the U.S., we have these things, CSA, community-supported agriculture, where a farmer, gives produce and you subscribe to the farmer. It's the same idea, where people sign up to send me $50 a year, and in return they get to come to my shows for free, and they get a CD in the mail, and they support me in what I'm doing, and that's made up for. I've got about 300 people doing that, and that's totally made up for the loss of CD sales in the modern era. It hasn't done much more than that, because I used to sell a lot more CDs, but it's a good solution anyway.
Yeah. Any interesting shows coming up? Because I think you've been here in Europe since the beginning of September. What's going to happen with you in the next couple of weeks? How long are you going to be staying in Europe?
6 more days in Europe, and I'll be singing several gigs in Belgium, one in Holland, and one in England.
And then going back over to the U.S.
Yeah, then back home for a couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay, just quickly towards the end of the interview, the current album was called The Other Side. What's it about? Do you talk about recent events when it comes to the writing process, maybe?
Yeah, recent and historical. I mean, I like historical events as a means of talking about what's happening now, as well as writing songs about what's happening now. But the title track is basically about the boat lift of the Danish Jews to Sweden in 1943.
Yeah, which is called Waiting for the Hurricane, right?
Oh, well, the song is called Denmark 1943, but the title of the CD is The Other Side, which is also a reference to crossing bodies of water as a refugee. And I wrote the song thinking about when I heard the news about the boat that went down last April with 800 dead in the Mediterranean, and getting people across bodies of water has been done better in the past, 1943 and 1492 being two prime examples.
Yeah, especially today, it's Columbus Day over in the U.S.
This is the day that Columbus got to the Americas and started the slaughter. And we still have a big statue of Columbus in New York City. It's an insult to any thinking human being in the world that we're celebrating this mass murderer. It's just it's hard to even say how it is that you could live in a world where somebody like him could be celebrated. Clearly.
That's why you make the music and people can listen to it. And what I also like about you is you support file sharing for your own work. And we're talking about more than 200 songs. So anybody can feel free to download your songs and using them for whatever purpose, actually.
Definitely, and that's I mean, especially in the modern age, especially in the U.S., without access to media, if giving away your music online is really the best and in many ways the only way people are going to hear your music.
Yeah.
And then once they download the stuff, maybe 1 in 1,000 people is going to organize a gig and get enough downloads, you're making a living.
There you have it. Yeah. Thank you so much. David Rovics, always on tour, always across the world, but today you're on our show and we're going to be hearing one more song from you in the next couple of minutes. Könnt ihr alles nochmal nachlesen bei uns, unter anderem auch auf der Facebook-Seite. Da gibt es die ganzen Infos über David Rovics. Da kommt ihr auf seine Homepage und auf seine Facebook-Seite. Und wie er gerade auch schon sagte, seine ganze Musik könnt ihr alles für lau, alles umsonst auch runterladen und euch so oft anhören, wie ihr möchtet. Thank you so much. Und jetzt geht's erstmal weiter hier mit dem Sport. Bleibt bei uns.